well, finally, a bit of predictability in this equation, because most of us, let's face it, have been predicting all week that Keir Starmer would put a hard date on increasing defence spending before he went to Washington, and two, that he would pay for the hike by raiding the foreign aid budget. So no real surprises yesterday, but here's the thing. Donald Trump is getting every single thing that he wants, isn't he?
I said on Monday there is method in Trump's madness. He is forcing European countries to commit to raising their defence spending, which is what he wanted. Britain. So over goes Keir Starmer, kowtowing to the President of the United States tomorrow. Oh, Mr. President, look what I've done. I've raised it. He wasn't going to do that anytime soon. Probably not before 2030. He's done it. Now, I, for one, think it's the right thing to do, and I think we should cut the international aid budget. I think it's bloated, and I think we should be supporting our defence sector. But this is going to really stick in the craw of a lot of Labour MPs who think we are playing now to Donald Trump's tune.
I'd love a penny for the thoughts of Gordon Brown. He was a big advocate. The last Labour Prime Minister, big advocate of international aid. Look, I think it's absolutely shameful. And Keir Starmer should take a pair of knee pads when he kneels before Donald Trump in order to protect his rather expensive suits, particularly if it's one of those that was bought for him.
It's politically shrewd, though, isn't it? Because of all the sources for the money to pay for this extra defence spending, taking it from foreign aid is going to be the least unpopular.
Yeah, great. Right. So he's going to have dead people around the world. That's what he's going to have. The people who are the world's thirstiest, hungriest, don't have clean water, don't have toilets, don't get educated, don't have proper shelters. And that will make Britain unsafer, because aid spending in an era of uncertainty and instability helps people stay in their home countries. You might as well brace for extra people coming to the channel to go on
what many people would see as justifiable aid programmes. For example, sexual health programmes across Africa, malnourished children being fed in Sudan. Very few people would argue with that. They would argue with, this is where some of our millions went last year, all-female traditional Chinese opera in Shanghai, rural crafts exhibitions in Shenzhen, and in Mexico City, apparently, we paid quite a lot of money for a temporary cycle lane. Look, it's those projects which make people mad.
I was writing...
And we're giving 500 million to farms in Africa when we can't... When we're screwing our farmers here on inheritance tax.
Hang on, you could...
Outrageous.
You could buy food and feed someone for a day, or you can improve farming and you'll feed them for a year. That's why you invest in farms and try and make those economies
Why can't we invest in our farms here?
Well, we do.
We're not enough. Not enough.
We invest a fortune in farmers here, although you did do them in with Brexit, and then you did them in with bad trade deals with Australia and New Zealand. And you cut grants under the Tory era. But if you come back to aid, it's an immoral cut that will make the world unsafe. And you're right about inefficiencies in the aid budget, and they have to be taken out because they undermine it. I was writing about this 25 years ago when in East Africa, the aid budget sponsored a record promoting privatisation in a country. But there's waste in the MOD. It's profligate, it's inefficient, it buys troop carriers that make troops sick. It gets aircraft carriers that can't get beyond Portsmouth because they keep breaking down.
Do you not think we should be increasing this?
No, you've got to... No, I don't, actually. I think what we have to do is get a better bang for our existing books, not give more money.
It's interesting, though, Kevin, that this just blows apart another manifesto commitment. And we're not talking about anything new that's happened, because this war between Russia and Ukraine has been going on before the election. All that's happened is that Donald Trump has turned the screw on the UK and Europe. And can I just read you the manifesto commitment? Labour is committed to restoring development spending at the level of 0.7% of gross national income as soon as fiscal circumstances allow. And the justification for wanting to boost it that much: Britain gained world-leading expertise in international development under previous Labour governments with the aim of making the world a safer, more prosperous place. Under the Conservatives, this capacity was degraded, and as a result, Britain has lost influence. So, I mean, basically, Labour manifesto says what they've just done is going to lose influence for the UK in the world and make it a more dangerous place.
I rest my case, Your Honour. And it's Keir Starmer to answer that. But you say all that has happened, is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is now a hostile leader. The US was an ally. They are now a hostile power. And we have seen that with him sucking up to Putin, who is a dictator, and then smearing Zelensky, who is a Democrat, as a dictator, blaming Ukraine that was invaded for being invaded, and now attempting to rip off Ukraine with a minerals deal.
Yes, but he's capable of doing these fantastic U-turns, isn't he? Because you're absolutely right about what he said about Ukraine and what he said about Zelensky. But look, on Friday, Zelensky's likely to be touching down in Washington and physically shaking hands with Trump on a deal which is not the rapacious deal which was originally proposed by the Americans. That's been changed. I mean, the Financial Times this morning says that the original draft, just a few days ago, was highly onerous, and Ukraine said, we're not doing it. And that was why Trump insulted him, because he loses it when he doesn't get his own way. But they've renegotiated it, and the final version, according to the Financial Times, would establish a kind of a joint fund into which Ukraine would contribute half of the proceeds from these mining operations, and that money would go to the future monetisation of projects within Ukraine. So they have actually done a much better deal. And Trump, therefore, is welcoming Zelensky, the dictator, into the White House.
Trump does deals. That's what he does. He's a deal maker, and he's got it. He's getting his way with European leaders. He's getting his way with Ukraine. And look, if I don't like him, I think I'm appalled by the idea Putin gets any sort of victory. But Ukraine were never going to win this war.
Also, Kevin, he also is someone who admires dictators. So when he calls Zelensky a dictator and then invites him to the White House, has he actually upgraded his status in his own view?
Yeah, but he does. He's an authoritarian white nationalist, which is why he admires Putin. He didn't call Zelensky a dictator to be nice to him. He called him a...
Although it then preceded him getting an invitation to the White House.
Yeah, and that is to sign a deal to basically give money from Ukraine to the US rather than the US giving money to Ukraine.
Yeah, a few days ago, Ukraine had no say in any of this, and now they're going to... Ukraine's going to the White House.
Is Ukraine in a better position now with Trump than it was with Joe Biden? No, it's not, is it?
Well, if fewer people die, it might be in a better...
Was the war going to end under Joe Biden? No.
Can I ask? OK, Kevin, can I ask...
But you're ceding 20% of Ukraine.
What does this mean for us? We don't just increase defence spending and then not spend it on anything. And one of the questions which I think would have sent a chill down everyone's spine yesterday was, are we now on a war footing? What do we spend this money on? Do we now talk about improved weapons, munitions? Is the conversation beginning about conscription? If we're going to put UK troops on the ground, where do we get those troops from? Are they just hanging around doing nothing right now, or do we need more troops?
You know, the Army has a recruitment crisis. The services have a recruitment crisis, including the Royal Navy. Can't get people for ships because you don't pay them enough. Now, if you're going to...
So is it going to go on a pay deal, then?
I don't know what they're going to spend it on, because they've stood on their heads in a matter of days. There was going to be no announcement. Everything was going to wait until there's a defence review completed.
What happened to Lord Robinson's review?
This is all terrible politics. You can see Trump pulling the strings of Starmer. I think it's utterly shameful. The world's poorest will pay, but that's the initial increase. Starmer has said he set out the terms of the next general election.
2030, it's going to go up to 3%.
It's going to go up to it's another 0.5%, which is, 15 billion extra or more. Where's that going to be funded? Because you won't be able to take it from the mouths of the world's poorest again. What that will mean is choices will have to be made on health, on education, where they're going to fill
welfare, or borrowing.
Welfare, everything,
Or it could be another broken promise, like the Labour manifesto, which should be in the fiction section.
Item 1 on the agenda in the White House tomorrow because I'm not sure what it is now, between Starmer and Trump. What's the first thing they're going to be talking about?
Whatever Trump decides.
And what do you think that might be?
Whatever Trump decides, because
I think it'll be a load of slaver and flattery from Starmer to Trump. Oh, great to see you, great victory. You've shaken everything up, you know.
You don't think that Trump, who is very good at pushing at an open door, you don't think that now the concession was made yesterday, he's going to be saying to Starmer, well, this 3% you're talking about, give me a date.
Well, there is a date in the next Parliament.
It's just at some point.
Well, it's in the next Parliament, which, given we had an election,
5 years.
There'll be an election 29 or 30, so it'll have to be 34 or 35. He could push for more, I suspect not. I wouldn't be surprised if a state visit is offered, if a visit by Charles and Camilla year after next
but
isn't
if
offered.
we're
All
offering,
that flatly prostituting the royal family, using that for Trump.
Well, your phrase. But if that's the case, if we're going, because we know that Donald Trump, whatever other criticisms he has of the UK, he adores the royal family. So if we're going to offer up the royal family on a plate, what are we going to get in return? I wonder if tariffs...
Tariffs, there's the big word. That's his favourite word. He said it again and again in the election. Tariffs are his favourite word. Are we going to be exempted from tariffs in the way perhaps the European Union is great
That would be a huge victory for Keir Starmer.
Terrific.
If our exports to America are not subject to bigger
particularly
taxes...
British steel, because steel is getting whacked with 25% tariffs. If we exclude that, brilliant.
Would you applaud that,
And if that's
Kevin?
not prostituting the royal family, that's what they're for. Soft power.
If it happened, yes, of course, because I don't want to see steel jobs go. But I suspect we're not going to get that.
Yeah. OK, let's turn our attention then to more domestic matters. And I just wonder whether other campaigns to try and get more money here are just destined for failure now. And I'll give you an example. To scrap the two-child benefit cap. This is a proposal because even within Labour, this limit on the amount of child tax credit or universal credit that you can claim if you have more than 2 children is criticised by backbench MPs as being cruel, as being something that fuels child poverty. But, of course, it saves the government money, doesn't it, Kevin? So
it's also popular, unfortunately.
The Resolution Foundation has said that it should be raised to a 3-child limit. So you're allowed to have another child before you lose your benefits.
Well, that's never going to happen now. No. Good. And certainly not going to happen with the increase in defence spending. Look, I think it's a popular policy.
It is popular, unfortunately, because people
fall. 3 kids, don't have 3 kids.
People fall for the arguments. If you can't afford to have kids, don't have them. But they will be getting money for their own kids in many cases, whether it's through universal credit or whether it's through child benefit. But they overlook what they're getting and then they just see larger families. It's this abolishing the Tory cap would be the single measure that would most lift kids out of poverty. So 1 in 3 kids in this country live in poverty, some of them absolutely below the breadline. I think it's another cruel policy.
Yeah, but
one of the worries...
take a third of a million children out of poverty.
And it's interesting because the guy who used to run the Resolution Foundation until the election, Torsten Bell, is now a very senior government minister.
He is a government minister.
A very senior government minister who clearly will not support this policy.
If people want to blame the parents for having kids they say they can't afford, that's fine. But don't bash the kids, which is because those kids' life chances will be marred by poverty. So don't hit the kids. Blame the parents if you like.
There's a huge revolt on the Labour benches about this because they are with Maguire on this, but I think the public support it. Support the cap.
Well, they do, unfortunately.
They do
because it's the way it's sold. I think we've got to make the argument of why it is cruel, which I'm attempting to do now.
We've seen what's happened to foreign aid. What about climate change? The independent government advisors on climate change said yesterday that 4 out of 5 cars are going to have to be electric in the next 15 years, and half of us should have heat pumps installed all over the next 15 years. It's not going to happen because the public aren't buying electric cars and they're not buying...
They can't afford a heat pump, £12,000.
Are we going to see climate change and spending on attacking climate change going the same way as foreign aid? Because, again, Trump has no time for climate change.
This is like a quarter of cars now that are sold are electric. You can say the manufacturers are heavily discounting because they get fined if they don't meet quotas inherited by Labour from the Tories. Heat pumps will become increasingly popular. They'll come down in price, and then people will find they're cheaper.
£12,000.
No, that's where I said
£12,000 against £2,000 for a new gas boiler.
They will come down in price because they're cheaper to run. So like, I've got a gas boiler. I hope it keeps on going for some time. But when it goes, I'll look at getting a heat pump. But it will, of course, depend on the price.
What about this other proposal from the Climate Change Committee, which are the independent climate advisors, and that is you should give up 2 doner kebabs per week. So slash your consumption from 8 doner kebabs to 6.
Who eats 8 doner kebabs?
Is that a year? I mean,
Who are these people? Who are these people?
They're the elephant foot ones. You see spinning around. I mean, you won't have him when you're going for your foie gras.
It says because eating less meat and dairy means
stop the cows passing wind.
Stops the methane production.
Nasty put.
And that is, if we gave up 2 doner kebabs worth of meat a week, we would be able to
Kevin would have to give up his sausage rolls. I mean,
keep
Kevin,
the UK within safe climate limits.
It's a disaster.
But the truth is, we'd be healthier if we eat. I eat meat, but if we ate less of it, we ate more fruit, veg, nuts, pulses.
Oh, who is this stupid committee?
And fish, we would be. And look, doner kebabs looks.
Well, I mean, they're just out of. They're just completely out of touch. I don't know anybody who eats 2 doner kebabs a week.
Does anyone eat a doner kebab unless they've had a really bad night out at the pub?
But this all comes as BP is expected to announce it's going to slash its renewable energy investments and instead focus on increasing oil and gas production. Feels like the tide is. It may be temporarily turning, doesn't it?
But this is going to put Ed Miliband, the Climate Change Secretary, Energy Secretary, in a very difficult position because he is almost a zealot on this issue.
And
can he carry on?
£300 would be saved on our energy bills by 2030, and yesterday the price cap went up. Bills will go up.
But you know, that hike since the election.
That 300 quid was really compared to what prices would be, because you can't control gas and electricity on an international market. But that's why the drive now for more wind renewable power is actually about your pocket and security too. Because if Putin invades another country, you won't put up the price of electricity from a wind turbine, but you do put up the price of oil and gas because they're traded.
But we haven't stored enough gas, which is one
and
of the
they're going to spend billions of pounds.
Yeah, his lot got rid of the storage. I remember that.
It was the coalition government. Ed Davey was the minister, actually. They're going to spend billions of pounds on a pointless nationalised energy company. How much is that going to cost us up? 8 billion? How much is that going to put our bills up?
It is to boost renewable energy, which is
pointless.
Now, there is a constant row. We seem to have it every day about what it's OK to post on social media and what constitutes harassment, intimidation and abuse. We did this story on Monday about Helen Jones, the grandmother, who had posted what appeared to be some pretty mild criticism of a Labour councillor and got a visit from 2 police officers.
Shocking.
Everybody thought that was utterly outrageous. We did the interview yesterday with Georgia Harrison, who spoke out about misogynistic abuse online, says every time she comes on television to complain about it, she then gets a tsunami of abuse as a result. So, I mean, good on those people who speak out about it, but my goodness, it doesn't seem to help in some cases. And then yesterday, we had an MP confronting directly social media bosses over extreme messages received by politicians after she was threatened. Let's have a listen to Emily Darlington. He says his team will take a look. This is Wilfredo Fernandez, who is X's Senior Director for Government Affairs, X, as we now know, Twitter. He says he'd take a look, but couldn't make any assurances the account will be removed. Now, there's a big jump from mild criticism of a Labour councillor, which gets you 2 visits by police officers, and then saying you're a traitor and you should be hung.
It's disgusting.
And that comment is still up. That's pretty intimidating, isn't it, Andrew?
It's disgusting and it's appalling. But what is even more appalling is the knock-kneed response from that bloke. He knows exactly what goes on.
Elon Musk's employee.
Yeah, he knows exactly the sort of vile abuse that's on there. And women MPs in particular get it, but all sorts of people get it. Look, we're all on social media. I occasionally see what people say about me. Pretty shocking.
Yeah.
But I've got broad shoulders. I move on.
Exactly. We've got thick skin.
We have.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's an elected representative, an MP.
Doing her job.
She has to be out in public and should not get that abuse.
No.
Twitter, before it became X, when Elon Musk bought it, had moderators who would suspend accounts where people were absolutely vile, really outrageously racist, sexist, rape threats. Musk came in. He got rid of lots of the moderators in the name of free speech. It's hate speech. It's not free speech, it's hate speech. Then he allowed back on people who'd been suspended. He said, come on, racists, get all back on, here you are. and it's part of a political project. That's what he wants. That's what he's pursuing.
It's this sort of eternal debate which is really intensified with Trump in the White House, because J.D. Vance did a speech, didn't he, at the Munich Security Conference, where we thought he was going to talk about defence spending, and he said Europe's got a problem with allowing free speech.
Yeah.
Now, free speech cannot include people saying they want to see you hung.
Yeah, he would be looking at that grandmother we talked about on Monday.
Yes.
Yep.
That is a classic example of where free speech is being curtailed by the police effectively trying to shut her up for having a legitimate complaint about some councillors. But threatening an elected member with death is beyond the pale.
Interestingly, she didn't actually know what a gibbet was. She said she had to look it up.
Yeah.
She didn't know that it was a scaffold.
Yeah, it's shocking. It's not shocking. It's not shocking because it's happening all the time.
Yeah.
Something we're going to be talking about in a few minutes' time on the programme and demonstrating for people watching are the so-called ghost number plates, which are proliferating in this country, apparently. Figures apparently show that 1 in 15 vehicles, vans, lorries, cars, have got these ghost number plates, and they fall into two categories. There's a kind of spray you can get, which you spray across the number plate. It looks exactly the same in daylight, but when you go through a speed camera or a traffic light camera and it flashes, the infrared can't see the plate. And there's no way of identifying the driver. So that's that. They're getting away with speeding and other offences. The other one is where plates are cloned. Somebody steals, let's say, a Volvo estate. They see a similar vehicle in the next road. They go to a licence plate manufacturer and say, can you give me this number plate, please? Slap it on, and it's a ghosted plate. And that innocent person can get speeding tickets, traffic light tickets. And this is 1 in 15 of vehicles in this country now.
Yeah, and it's a threat to everybody who's law-abiding.
Absolutely.
I mean, so... Look, I've noticed a few number plates. I just thought, is that just a bit dodgy as it faded? Or so? Yes, a few of the ghost plates.
I've never... Do you know what?
I hadn't realised. You're driving along and you just see them.
Until yesterday, when I was told about this story, I had no idea that ghost number plates existed, which, of course, is the whole point of a ghost number plate.
Well,
but I did know about cloned number
I knew
plates.
about that.
Because, you know, that... And that is, obviously, it's illegal to clone a number plate, but, you know, the unfortunate person who gets a letter through the door saying, we saw you go through a red light, and they think, hang on, where was I at that point, at that time, and then has to presumably prove that it wasn't them. Pretty difficult to do.
A terrible cost, inconvenience and worry for you. Now, if those ghost number plates aren't illegal, well... There's a new bill.
Wow,
50 measures. The
ghosts are illegal.
They are illegal.
But the trouble is, how does anybody see them? Because if you can't spot them on a camera, I don't know whether for police officers to the naked eye, I mean, are they staring at people's number plates to work out if they're ghosts or not?
Have the police got enough on their plate?
Well, we're going to be asking an expert on these plates how they can be detected.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is, if you are caught, you just get a fine. Now, there's a proposal, as you say, coming before Parliament, that the fine should go up to £1,000. I think people should lose their licences.
I agree.
I mean, for 3 years.
I agree.
I think you should be banned from driving, and if you do it again, I think you should go to jail.
Yeah, and if it's your car, have it crushed, and then be taken to see it as a concrete, you know, little metal block, you know, and be asked to lift it up and push it up a hill, and let it roll down, then push it up a hill again.
Nothing will happen.
The entire
you can use an invisible car, as it were, because that's what they are, invisible cars or vehicles,
because they're a threat
to commit a crime.
Yeah, they're a threat to everybody else, and you know, there's a huge problem with people not being insured. So if somebody hits your car, then you're going to be paying yourself.
I mean, there's no coppers.
The MP who's bringing this before Parliament, she's called Sarah Coombs, she says the current fine is £100 if you're caught using one of these plates. Well, you get that, frankly, for illegally parking somewhere.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary.
I know.